Hello, and welcome to Big Muddy Mayhem, the podcast where we talk about true crime and bad behavior in the Midwest.
Each week, we'll bring you two stories from the heartland that might break your heart, but we hope to make you laugh a little along the way. I'm Tracey and
And I'm Janet O'Brien.
All right, well, this is our second episode. Thank you for joining us. And Janet, if you'd like to start, let's jump right in.
Awesome, I'd love to. So, this part takes part in St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
So, right in the heart of the city where Tracey and I both live. It is the trunk case of 1885.
Ooh, okay.
So, back on April 12th of 1885 at the Southern Hotel. The Southern Hotel was located in downtown St. Louis. It was actually burnt down in 1877, and they ended up rebuilding it. It lasted till about 1912. They had to close it down because of other hotels. Anyway, so in April 12th of 1885 at the Southern Hotel in St. Louis, Missouri, at room 144, guests started contacting the front desk saying there was a foul odor.
Oh dear. Not a good thing at a hotel.
No, not so much. Yeah. So there was a foul odor, and the manager at the time, he went into the room and he found some leftover trunks because somebody was supposed to come and collect the trunks.
Stuff.
Exactly. But the trunks were, he didn't see anything amiss and he left the room. So Tuesday, the stench became unbearable.
Oh.
And guests had to move out. They said that the several trunks, and there was one trunk where they could really tell where the smell was coming from.
Oh.
They open up the trunk and they find a body of a man. He's only wearing his white drawers.
Okay, well.
Yes.
Sexy.
If you think those are sexy, sure. So they had to immediately call the police. Come to find out, the victim was Charles Arthur Preller. He was poisoned.
Okay.
And they were accusing he was staying in the room with somebody else.
Okay.
And his name was Hugh Muttram Brooks. He went by an alias as a doctor.
Oh.
So his alias name was Walter H. Lennox Maxwell, M.D. Can you have a longer name?
Walter H. Lennox Maxwell, M.D.
Walter H. Lennox Maxim, M.D. Very long name.
He would have a terrible time putting together an email address.
Exactly. So, we'll back the story up. Back in January of 1885, these two men met in Liverpool, England. Mm-hmm. And they got along pretty well, and they were going to travel to Boston on a steamship. The steamship, not going to pronounce this very well, Cephalonia. Cephalonia. Really? Right. So they decided they were traveling together. Charles Preller, he's the one who they found the deceased person. He was 32. Can you believe this? I would love to have this as a title. He was an international traveler.
Well.
Could I be an international traveler? Because I would love to. But he was also a salesman for J.X. Dixon Textile Company in London. Hugh Brooks, he was only 24. Mm-hmm. He was an attorney at 24. I guess he didn't have to take the big...
That was back when you pretty much just hung out a sign and said, I'm a lawyer now.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
No bar exam. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He also studied medicine.
Okay. Dr. Lawyer.
Exactly, because he was the alias Walter H. Lennox Maxwell, M.D. They become fast friends on the ship. Later, they find some correspondence, and it indicated that they were in a romantic relationship. And one of the newspapers posted, "Not fit for publication."
Oh.
So, little naughty letters going back and forth. They planned to travel to New Zealand, but Praler, the older one, he had to make some calls in North America first, and that's where the ship was going. Maxwell Brooks, I don't know which one I should stick with, Maxwell or Brooks, the alias or the real. He stayed in Boston while Preller went to Montreal. Okay. And then they agreed to go back to meet in St. Louis, Missouri.
Meet me in St. Louis.
So on March 30th, Maxwell arrives in St. Louis and checks into his room in 144 at the Southern Hotel.
Okay.
And as I mentioned before, the hotel did burn down before. Anyway, the hotel owner, Robert Campbell, he was close friends with President Grant. That's another backstory I have about that hotel.
Now, I wonder if was this the same Campbell family as the Campbell House, the historic home?
That is very possible. I wonder
we'll have
about
to look into that.
Exactly, and we'll have to put that on our webpage. Mm-hmm. Our Facebook page. Anyway, so on April 3rd, Preller arrives. He gets his own room, but it is well known that both of them were sleeping in room 144.
Sure.
Preller displayed he had money by using $100 bills in 1885.
Oh, wow, okay.
Maxwell appeared to be broke. On April 5th, Easter Sunday, Maxwell told several people at the hotel that Preller would be traveling the country for a few days.
Oh.
So they were, anybody questioned where he was? He's traveling for a few days.
He's going to spend the summer with his maiden aunt.
Exactly. At 10:15 p.m. on Easter Sunday, according to the head waiter, Henry Arlington, Maxwell was drunk. He displayed a pistol, and he had a roll of $100 bills. Oh. Remember, this is the same guy who's broke, right? Mm-hmm. And then eventually, in his drunkenness, he, called over the waiter, and he was talking to him, and he asked him, he said, if a man committed murder in this country and had $600, could he beat the case?
Wow. Man, you can ask the barkeep for a lot of things, but that is not one of them.
No, it is not. Not at all. So the next day, Maxwell went to Hickman's barber shop, and he had his beard shaved off.
Well, that'll get him.
And then he went to Frederick Birger, a trunk dealer, and I said trunk, not drug, purchased a canvas trunk and 2 trunk straps. He paid his hotel bill, and disappeared, leaving behind several trunks in room 144.
Oh, dear.
Now, the whole point of that was that apparently Preller was going to come back and pick up the trunks. So he's like, I'm leaving him here. He'll come pick him up. No big deal. Mm-hmm. And then 6 days later, guests started to complain about that odor.
Right.
April 14th, stench became unbearable. Odor came from a zinc trunk bound with ropes and the 2 straps purchased from the Beegers.
Okay.
Yes, so not so good. So
what was in there?
There was a body.
There probably were no mini fridges, so maybe it was just leftover emos or something.
Possibly, yeah, you never know, right? Yeah. So after that, the odor came. They found the body of a man wearing white drawers with H.M. Brooks on the waistband.
Oh my goodness. So this is like he's wearing his camp skivvies, basically.
That's not even his underwear. It's the other guy's underwear, right?
Right, but he's wearing like somebody else's.
And then they noticed on the body the mustache had been cut off with scissors, and there was a cut across his breast skin deep. This is hilarious. They found a paper placard with the inscription, "So perish all traitors to the great cause." Oh. So he was trying to throw them off the track, thinking it was a political assassination.
I see.
So when they looked at the writing of the letter, They noticed that the handwriting on the letter was the same as Maxwell's signature on the hotel registration.
Oh.
He didn't try very hard. Let's just put it that way.
I don't guess so.
The St. Louis police believed the placard was misled as a political assassination. They found several prescription blanks with Fernand's drugstore in St. Louis.
Okay.
So, those little things they
right,
write
exactly. The
on.
pad that the doctor writes your script out on. Okay.
And so they went down to that drugstore and they found Mr. Fernand, the owner of the drugstore, and he told the detectives that he knew Maxwell. And at 2 p.m. on April 5th, he sold 4 ounces of chloroform.
Oh.
And then at 4 p.m., he sold him 2 more. Wow. When they did the autopsy on Preller, he died of chloroform poisoning. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
I know.
The coincidence.
And then they also found a letter that they planned on traveling together to New Zealand. The police suspected that he would make the journey alone. So they're like, oh, we got to go find this dude. Right? He's probably taken off. He's got all the money.
He has the cash. Mm-hmm. His underwear is back in St. Louis.
Exactly. At the train depot, they talked to the people at the train depot and they found out there was a man fitting Maxwell's description, and he purchased the ticket to San Francisco under H.M. Brooks, the alias.
So he just tried to do the switch?
Exactly. So St. Louis ended up telegraphing the San Francisco captain of detectives, I.W. Lees. Someone fitting the description checked into the Palace Hotel under T.C.D. Iger.
Oh, you need to be better with your names. Like, it needs to be something a little more common. Don't do that.
But he was apparently from Paris.
Sure.
The clerk at the Hotel City had a very strong French accent.
Almost too strong?
Just a little. And this is even a funnier part. A man by the name of Robbins also recalled the man on the train with a very strong French accent. Robbins spoke fluent French and tried to address him in French. He admitted he did not speak French, but he used the accent the rest of the trip anyway.
I do not speak French. I only know how to talk like this.
What? So he, under that same French name, he booked a passage on the City of Sydney, which is the boat that goes to New Zealand.
Okay.
A steamer bound for New Zealand. The St. Louis police chief, Harringan, he sent a cablegram. Oh, this is fun. He sent a cablegram to New Zealand. It was $3.34 a word. Wow. 155 words. The cost of it was $517.70 in 1885. The St. Louis Globe-Democrat, which is a defunct newspaper in St. Louis, they quoted this. They put this out in the newspaper, and they said it was the most expensive police message ever sent from a telegraph office in the United States.
Do we know what it says?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm just curious.
I didn't find that.
Man shaved beard, stop! Wearing the wrong underwear, stop! Please return to St. Louis ASAP, stop!
Stop! Maxwell had taken into custody. He was taken into custody when the steamer arrived in New Zealand, by the way. They had sent 2 people to go from St. Louis to New Zealand to go pick him up.
Oh, my.
Right?
Okay.
The Missouri governor, Marmaduke, got an extradition paper signed by President Grover Cleveland.
But then he chewed it up.
The St. Louis detectives, James Tracey and George Badger, went to New Zealand to pick up the prisoner. 77 days later, turned over the detectives. They arrived back in the States on August 11th. 2,000 people met them at the train depot in St. Louis 5 days later.
Wow, just the two of them, and then we're like, oh, well, we didn't get anybody, but we had a hell of a time.
Right.
Here's a boomerang. I've got a pet koala now.
So, he's clearly arrested, and now we're going to move on to the trial part. Walter Maxwell, now known as Hugh Brooks. He was held. The trial was held at the St. Louis Four Courts building. It lasted about 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Hotel employees, the barber, the trunk dealer, the druggist, and others that knew or met him, they all testified against him. John McCullough, detective for the Missouri Railroad, was a plant as a cellmate for 47 days while he was in jail.
Wow. Wow.
And he was told by Brooks that he was enraged that Preller, the person who had all the money that he killed, refused to pay his passage to New Zealand and decided to, on account of his meanness, to fix him.
Oh, well.
So, apparently if you have a lover and they don't pay for your passage to go out of the country, you could just kill them.
Well, there's a reason I've never married.
So he told the plant about this and complained, and then he started telling him some other things which probably were not true. Mm-hmm. He said that Preller complained of a private disease that Brooks could cure. He injected Preller with a large amount of morphine to make him unconscious, tied a saturated cloth of chloroform around his face until he was dead.
That's pretty thorough.
Yes. He dead.
He's very, very, very dead.
Right. Brooks testified that he was trying to help Preller with a stricture that he could cure with a catheter in his urethra. 18. Yeah, Victorian surgeries, bad. All bad.
Those years, like if you have a problem with your urethra, you just learn to live with it. Mm-hmm. Because nothing's good.
He said Preller agreed to the operation. Chloroform was used as an anesthetic, accidentally killed him, fled because he was scared. So on May 30th, they exhumed the body and examined him again. Preller did not have a stricture, and they could tell he never had a catheter inserted up there.
Oh.
So he was lying. So on June 4th, they submitted all this to the jury in 1886. The next morning, the verdict came back as guilty. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, he did send a bunch of appeals and requests. They were all denied. He was given extra time so his parents could arrive before the execution because, again, he was from England.
Right.
So it took him a while.
For them to get here. Yeah. Right.
So August 10th, 1888, Hugh Brooks was hanged in the courtyard behind Four Courts.
Oh.
In the jail, he converted to
Catholicism,
and he was buried in the Calvary Cemetery.
Oh, here in St. Louis.
And Preller was buried in Bellefontaine Cemetery on an unmarked grave. And I actually have pictures of both of those.
Fantastic.
So that is my story.
We will put those in the show notes if we've got pictures. We'll try to be sure to add them there. Fantastic. Oh my gosh, Janet, that was an amazing story, and that's one I haven't heard before.
Neither have I, until recently.
Right. And because this is the way that we seem to kind of go about it, I too have kind of got a story of a person convicted for murder.
Ooh.
So, if you are ready,
I am totally ready.
And get started. So last week I told you the story of Molly's grave that came from my hometown of St. Charles.
Right.
This week I took a little page out of Ryder's book. My partner, and he was raised and grew up in Southern Illinois, and so I am going to tell you the story of Charlie Birger.
Ooh.
Do you know who Charlie Birger is?
Do not know who he is.
Okay, well, if you are from Southern Illinois, then you probably do. So Charlie Birger, born in 1881, he's a very complicated character, complicated time, definitely a scofflaw to be sure, and but really beloved even today. So he was born in Russia. He was born in Russia to a Jewish family that immigrated to the United States. Every American trope, like every immigrant American trope applies to this man. Like, honestly, he did everything. You think about what you would want to be when you were like a little kid growing up in those days, and he pretty much went on to do it. So he has a very storied history. He has a very, he's a scofflaw, but he kind of has a moral code, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
So he's, again, born in Russia to Russian Jewish parents. They immigrate to New York City. They're not there for very long. That's pretty much just where they land.
Sure, absolutely.
Then they come to St. Louis, where Charlie gets his very first job, where he is a newsie for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch.
Oh, wow.
So he starts out as a newsboy in his younger days. And then, when he gets a little bit older, the family moves to O'Fallon, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
Where he works in a pool hall a little bit.
Nice.
Maybe starts to see a little bit more of life, right?
Uh-huh, yep.
Then, 1901 happens. He's a little bit older then, and so into the Army he goes.
Wow.
So he signs up and he becomes a soldier. He's a cavalryman, in the Army. He's in the Army from 1901 to 1904. Receives an honorable discharge out in 1904, and then decides that, it's 1904, the place to be is out west.
Oh,
so he goes out west. Right, he heads out west, where he becomes a bronco buster and a cowboy.
Oh, wow, neat.
So yeah, he's been a newsie, he's worked in a pool hall, now he's been a soldier, and now he's out in, out west, working as a bronco buster and working as a cowboy.
It's kind of amazing with these stories how they just completely change jobs,
completely, right? Now it's hard to move from one bank to the other.
I know.
Right, but yeah, so he goes out and he's like, well, I guess I'll be a cowboy for a little bit. He does that for a while. He moves back to Illinois, where he marries. Now, I looked across several sources for this. All that anybody would say about him was that he was married multiple times. But we're not entirely certain as to how many numbers, how many wives he had and when and where. So he moves back to Illinois. He marries wife number 1. Not easy to know again how many in total. And he settles in Harrisburg, Illinois.
Okay.
So this is where Ryder went to high school. This
is why
this story,
he
and his family, in the time that he and I have been together, I've heard many stories of Charlie Birger.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So Harrisburg, Illinois, well, that's a mining town. That's coal mining. So Charlie Birger becomes a miner, because why not?
Why not? Of course. Because you need, his resume is all over the place.
He becomes a miner, and he works in the coal mines, and he kind of has a little bit of a, headbutt, with another family called the Sheltons.
Uh-oh.
That are there. So he and the Sheltons kind of butt heads because they work for competing coal mines.
Oh.
Well, he works as a miner and all of that, and that is all, the way that things are going. And then, around 1920... or the early 1920s, Prohibition.
Oh, yes.
Now, all of a sudden, instead of mining, it makes more sense to make money in bootlegging.
Yes, of
and
course.
And speakeasies and stuff like that. So it makes a little bit more sense to make money in bootlegging. He, remember, had worked in that pool hall.
Oh, yeah.
So he had kind of... I had a taste and an eye for those sorts of scenes before. Now, all of a sudden, he and the Sheltons are kind of on the same side.
Oh,
because they're bootleggers, too.
Oh, wow.
And they have a common enemy. So Charlie Birger, he builds up what is supposed to be just sort of like a barbecue restaurant. Just a barbecue restaurant. Just in... just a little pick and country place.
It's like Anheuser-Busch and ice cream.
So he builds a barbecue place called Shady Rest. Now, Shady Rest is actually a speakeasy, but the people that work at the barbecue joint up front are kind of the lookouts for...
Oh, wow.
You know, to make sure that the right people get where they need to go and the wrong people don't. And he aligns himself briefly with the Shelton brothers. And they are going against, at this point in time, they're going against the KKK.
Oh, no.
KKK has a big presence in Southern Illinois at this time.
Yep.
Now... as much as I would like to say that they were going against the KKK for reasons of racial justice and all of that, it wasn't. It was that the KKK were very staunch, like, pro-prohibition.
Oh, no.
Well, and the reason why is that if you took a look at, like, where alcohol culture was at that time, it was mostly amongst, like, immigrant families, particularly Italian families.
Yeah, that completely makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So the KKK is very for prohibition. And then you've got the Birgers or the Birger family and the Sheltons, and they are against it.
Right.
Because they're making money that way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So they fight to go against the KKK, mostly just because they want to sell booze. And the KKK nominates this young man for sheriff, or for mayor, I believe, and his name is Seth Glenn Young.
Okay.
So he's doing all kinds of raids for booze. He's a cop. He's doing all kinds of raids for booze and all of that. And they take people out of the, like, speakeasies and stuff that they catch, and they send them to prisons that are run by the by the KKK.
Oh, my God.
And all of that are not really even official prisons. Well, so this guy is running, like I said, is running for office. The Klan is behind him. The Birgers and the Sheltons are against him. And we are not entirely certain which one of them did it.
Okay.
But the sheriff in the town, at the time, his name is Ora Thomas, I'm sorry. He shoots and kills Young.
Oh my God.
There are 4 people involved in the shootout. There's the sheriff at the time. There is Seth Glenn Young, who is the pro-Klan nominee.
Yeah.
And then there were a couple of other people that are, like, kind of involved tangentially on either side. Somehow, one way or another, all 4 men are mortally shot.
Oh my God.
So nobody walks away from this battle.
Oh my.
But it does break the back of the Klan in Southern Illinois at that time. So
that's not a bad thing.
Birger versus Sheltons, they've defeated their common enemy, but now that there's no common enemy, they only have each other as enemies.
Oh, right.
So the war between the Birgers and the Sheltons is on.
Oh my gosh.
So he had, like I said, Charlie Birger had his barbecue joint called Shady Rest.
Right.
The Sheltons try to bomb Shady Rest from the air. They shoot at each other from armored cars.
Oh my God!
This is really a Hatfield-McCoy situation.
Wow.
They're really, really going at each other.
Oh my God!
In 1926, the mayor of the town, his name is Joseph Adams, is killed.
Oh my God! Wow!
Now, there are conflicting stories about whether Birger and his gang were responsible for this, or whether the Sheltons were responsible for this.
Holy shit.
But, one way or another, Birger is the one that is arrested on the charges of having ordered the killing. They know he didn't do the shooting. They found the other 2 guys that were had been pinned or fingered as having been there for the shooting. But they know he didn't do it. They just say that he was the one that ordered the charges. So
oh my gosh.
They arrest all 3 of them. The 2 others that are arrested are set free. And Birger is placed into jail. Now, he's not worried about it because he's a beloved, like almost like a beloved mob boss. He's Omar. He was beloved by the neighborhood. He did all kinds of good things for the local people. And he thinks there's no way they're going to convict me.
Oh my God.
In this county.
Right.
However, trial's not going to take place there.
Oh no!
The trial is not where he thought it was going to be held.
Oh no!
It is moved into Franklin County, a neighboring county where he does not have such favor. So,
you think that was done on purpose?
It might be, yeah. It might very well be. Now, there are things that were kind of interesting about, he was held in jail in Benton, Arkansas, I believe, or in Benton, Illinois, rather, for about a year. He had a much larger, nicer cell. It is a museum today.
Oh my gosh!
His cell, opened up into like kind of a little indoor walking area where he could go and take the air and meet visitors. School children used to come on field trips to visit and meet with him.
Oh my God! Wow! So
all of that stuff. He continues to just kind of hold court. Mm-hmm. But his trial, like I said, while he's in jail in Benton, and then his trial takes place in Franklin County, and he is eventually convicted. And in 1928. In April, Charlie Birger is the second to last person to be hanged in the state of Illinois.
Oh my gosh,
The next one took place 6 months later, and it wasn't anybody that was as notable. A few things to note about that day, and I will show you. Oh, first of all, I have to show you some of these pictures. He was a hunk.
Oh yeah, we're going to be posting that.
I was going to say, he was hottie. And so when he was hanged, a few things that were notable about that sad day, or that day. Number one, he had one request, and that was that he wanted to wear a black hood rather than a white one before they hanged him, because he didn't want to be hanged wearing a white hood, because he didn't want anyone to associate him with the KKK.
Wow.
So they did, you can see from this picture.
Oh my gosh.
They did meet that request, and so he was hanged with a black hood over his head. And he was apparently very polite and shook the hand of his hangman before he was executed.
Wow.
And his last words before being hanged were, "It's a beautiful world."
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So he is, again, like I said, if you go to Harrisburg, Illinois, or anywhere around southern Illinois, he is a hometown hero. Ryder said that he remembers from middle school that his history teacher had this picture of the Birger gang.
Oh my gosh.
All sitting on the steps of Shady Rest outside of their armored car.
Oh my, wow. That's amazing.
We'll post this too.
Yes, we'll post these pictures.
He said, I grew up with that picture on the wall of my history classroom. Charlie Birger had a tendency to defend small stores when they were robbed. If he found out who had...
Oh, yeah.
He would, he considered Harrisburg his hometown. He took care of, people that were kind of poor and needy. He got in the mud with the people that he needed to, but also was really kind and respectful to the citizens. And Ryder says that even to this day, you would be very hard-pressed to find anyone from southern Illinois that will have an unkind word to say about Charlie Birger.
That's amazing.
He, like I said, he was born to a Jewish family. He is buried in University City in St. Louis.
Oh my gosh!
So he is buried in a local cemetery in U City here in St. Louis.
That's amazing. Wow.
And that is the story of good guy / bad guy / real guy.
Real guy, yeah.
Charlie
He did
Birger.
a lot. That's amazing. I love that story.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, it's very dense. I had to cut a lot of this out just because there are a million little, like, as you can tell, he was a character.
Yes, it sounds like
a bunch of stories. So my sources for this were Wikipedia, a website called Genealogy Trails, and one called heretic.com. 2 books that I would recommend. One where I got a lot of information is by an author named Gary Daniel. It's a book called A Night, K-N-I-G-H-T, of a different sort. And the other one that I would really recommend that mentions Charlie Birger, but also talks a little bit about all of the mayhem that was going on in southern Illinois around that time. And it is a book by Paul Engel called Bloody Williamson, because Williamson County is one of the other counties down in that part of the state.
That's a great story.
Thank
you.
You.
That's really fun that we get to learn a little bit about what writer...
Right.
Yeah, what he grew up around.
I love the crime, but I also love it when we can, get a little bit of history.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, now that we have told these stories of crime and murder, now we are going to talk a little bit about what's nice here. This is the part of the podcast where we take a look at where these occasions took place and talk about what there might be that is that's nice to go and see. Janet, you had first story, so go ahead and go first.
So what's nice around the hotel was located at 4th and Walnut, which is very, very, very close to the big gigantic magnet in the front of St. Louis. It's called the Arch. So, of course, that was built in the mid to late 60s. It's also just behind the Arch. We also have the old courthouse. And we also have the old cathedral as well. So those are all places that people definitely come to visit when they come to St. Louis. The Arch still uses the same type of elevator to go up. They're crazy looking cars. You've been in those cars before.
I have, yes. They look like little eggs, and you can put 4 people in them, and then it's like 2.5 minutes of just being a little bit scared until you get up to the top.
And they're a little bit cramped, too. And you're just... what amazes me with those is watching the ladder that you can see. There's this zigzag ladder that goes up the Arch. So, if you ever got stuck, there is apparently a way down. I wouldn't want to go down that way. But it's there. So they recently redid the
Arch grounds. Yeah, yes, absolutely.
They redid the Arch grounds. They have a whole brand new museum. It's not the museum neither of us grew up with. It's very, very nice, and the way you enter into the Arch is very different now. It's just a fun thing to go visit. So if you ever come to St. Louis, you definitely should visit the Arch.
And don't let the eggs scare you. The egg elevators are fine, and the view from the top is worth it.
Exactly. So what's nice?
My what's nice here. So Charlie Birger was, like I said, executed in Benton, Illinois.
Okay.
And so Benton County, Illinois, is home of a lake called Rend Lake. This
Rend
is
Lake.
where, have you been? Yeah.
I know Rend Lake. I have not been there.
Yeah, Rend Lake, R-E-N-D. So Ryder spent many a happy day there growing up, out going water skiing and jet skiing and just kind of going out on boats. It is a lake in Benton, Illinois that is 13 miles long and 3 miles wide.
Nice.
So a lot of space. They've got swimming, fishing, boating, hiking, and kind of relevant to our interest and our podcasts, the Big Muddy River is both an inflow and an outflow of that lake. So tie-in. Shout out to Big Muddy. So one of the things that I myself have only been to Rend Lake a couple of times, but I've got a little bit of a tie-in. Janet, you know if there is anything that I love as much as I love true crime,
yes,
it is reality television.
Yes, she does.
So they just, Benton, Illinois, it's a small town, and they don't have a Charlie Birger anymore, or Charlie Birger anymore, and so they just had this reality TV show that was on this past year. Rend Lake is also sometimes known as Crappy Lake. Not because it's crappy, but because a crappie.
Crappie.
C-R-A-P-P-I-E is a type of fish that is found in lakes and rivers around here. Well, so they call it Crappie Lake sometimes because of the fishing there. Well, if you've ever watched The Real Housewives series,
I have not.
They did a spin-off this year called Welcome to Crappie Lake. They took 2 of these women that were from The Real Housewives.
No!
One of them is an actual countess. She sings cabaret like that. She's just sort of like a wealthy woman that does her own cabaret shows. Her name
God, no!
Countess Luann, and then her friend Sonia Morgan, like 2 of the housewives.
Oh my God.
They did something kind of akin to The Simple Life, where the town of Benton really needed to raise some money. So they bring in these 2 real housewives, and they put them there for a summer, and they put together fundraising activities.
Oh my God!
And a cabaret show and a talent show and all of that. And here's the thing, though. Even though these women are both from, are both kind of fortunate circumstances, they both did come from more modest circumstances.
Oh, really?
Right. So you have a woman named Countess Luann who is actually sticking her arm into Crappie Lake, noodling for catfish.
Oh, no! Well, who was I talking to about that? You know about... I just found out about noodling.
Right. Do you know... For our listeners...
Oh, my God.
If you don't know what noodling is...
It's terrible.
Apparently larger fish like catfish, like big catfish... One way that you can try to catch them is by maybe putting a little bit of bait in your hand, but just sticking your hand all the way down up to the elbow into the water.
Just don't.
In hopes that a big catfish will come up and see your arm as bait.
Oh, hell no.
And they don't have teeth, so they just latch on, and then you pull your arm up.
Oh, God.
And bring the giant catfish into the boat. So, picture a real housewife doing this in order to help raise money for a small southern Illinois town. And that is what you have when you watch Welcome to Crappie Lake. I cannot say that it is good television, but I can say that it is really satisfying television. And it will help fill out a little bit of the story now that you've heard a tiny little bit of Muddy Mayhem history from Benton, Illinois.
Oh, my God. I heard about that a few days ago, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Apparently, that is illegal in Missouri.
Well, over the river.
Missouri does a lot of things wrong. But for some reason, that's still illegal. So, our conservation department in Missouri is by far a very high standard. It really is.
Really
We have a bunch of terrible things that happen in Missouri, but conservation, we excel at. We're very, very good at. So.
Well, Janet, as my story showed, things are a little bit faster and looser sometimes over in Illinois, and noodling is just a part of that. So I'll take you out to noodle for catfish soon.
Oh, boy. Well, those were great stories.
They really were. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
And thank you to all of our Muddy Buddies for tuning in and listening to us. We hope to keep doing this for you, and we'll be back next week with another story. Is there anything else that we have to say?
The only thing I have to say is stay Midwest nice.
Mm-hmm.